24 hours. Brio contains a type of medicine that increases the risk of death from asthma problems and may increase the risk of hospitalization in children and adolescents. Brio is not for people whose asthma is well controlled on a long-term asthma control medicine, like an inhaled corticosteroid. Once your asthma is well controlled, your doctor will decide if you can stop Brio and prescribe a different asthma control medicine, like an inhaled corticosteroid. Do not take Brio more than prescribed. See your doctor if your asthma does not improve or gets worse.
Ask your doctor if 24-hour Brio could be a missing piece for you.
See if you're eligible to pay no more than $10 a month.
Well, college students across the country are getting ready to start classes, but the dream of higher education can be out of reach for many of the 2.7 million kids whose parents are in prison. Now an unlikely man is doing his best to change that. Brooke Silva Braga introduces us to a one-of-a-kind scholarship in Utah.
So this is it.
Cy Lindbergh wasn't sure he'd ever pack up for the drive to Snow College.
The college was stressful because I was always thinking, like, how am I going to make up the money to go?
Cy was just 5 years old when his father was sent to prison. Even the cost of an in-state school seemed out of reach.
Mom comes in, she goes, "You got the scholarship." And I was like, I can go to college.
The philanthropist behind Cy's scholarship was Carl Winsness.
Most of the time you think of philanthropists, you know what I mean, Rockefeller, the people with big money.
Carl is a plumber in Salt Lake City, and for the last 5 years, the source of one of the country's only scholarships for kids with incarcerated parents.
These kids haven't done anything wrong.
He solicits donations with homemade flyers, but mostly the money has come out of his own $30,000 salary.
I don't smoke, I don't drink from Starbucks, I don't have HBO. So, I mean, I don't waste a lot of money on that stuff. Seriously, what's $1,000?
$1,000 is the amount of most of the 17 Willie the Plumber scholarships Carl has given to Utah students. And if that doesn't sound like a lot, you've never been where Macy Nielsen was.
$1,000 was a huge deal.
Her application essay explained her dad and mom were sent to jail.
I never got to give my parents a hug or have them tuck me in.
Leaving her grandparents to raise her.
I moved in when I was 5.
Okay, so this was pretty much home.
Yeah.
But in truth, the money is only part of the prize for a kid like Macy.
You get really down on yourself. People judge you, and you just feel like you can't do anything. And all of a sudden, you have this random stranger who believes in you and knows that you're not who your parents are and that you do have a chance.
Carl knows what it means for a parent to be absent. He shot an intruder who turned out to be a police officer and served 17 years, unable to support his own 2 daughters.
Do you feel like you're making up for what happened earlier in your life? Sure. It's nice to be able to give back or correct wrongs. Maybe it falls as part of the healing process.
Carl says the money he sends to kids like Cy helps ease the anger of all those wasted years.
You know, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to go.
Brooke Silva Braga for CBS News, Salem, Utah.
And to think he makes $30,000 a year. Well, that's the CBS Weekend News for this Saturday. The news continues on our 24-hour digital network, CBS Ed, at cbsnews.com. I'm Rena Ninen in New York.
We've got a lot of hard-working people, I'll tell you that.
It's not a good situation. We've been in line every day at all of the different stores buying water.
I'm thankful for being here. I'm just praying on some help right now so I can get this over.
First, here at 6 o'clock, we're following breaking news. Mayor Turner just announcing that power in some neighborhoods will be turned off tomorrow. Turned off tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning in the area west of Gessner, east of Highway 6, south of I-10, and north of Briar Forest. The reason? People are not leaving their homes, which is putting first responders in danger. Let's go to that news conference now.
Because of City of Houston and things are cost a little more, to increase that to $35,000, which would enable people to start making repairs in certain parts of their home while the bigger repairs take place. And we need advanced funding on that. We need to work to try to provide housing for those in low-income communities, those who are renters. That's critically important. So housing, housing, housing. The other thing that I stressed was that debris removal. Right now, there are people that are back to their homes and they're already putting that debris out on the curb. And that's going to take place, that's taking place all over the city. Now, the City of Houston crews have already started. We started on Thursday, had crews out in Kingwood today. But in large part, we will be judged by how quickly we can remove this debris in front of people's houses, because that debris will serve as a constant reminder of Hurricane Harvey. So we have to remove it quickly. And plus, it's a safe public safety issue. We don't. Calls for the City of Houston to remove this debris could be as much as $250 to $300 million. I asked for an advance of $100 million so that we can aggressively ramp up our debris removing program, and he was very sensitive to that. In fact, there was a question whether or not it was going to be like what the match would be. In some cases, it's like 75-25, but on the debris removal, I think he's agreed to like 90%. Okay, with respect to Category B, and this involves like law enforcement and other damages and costs you associated with the storm, and I think he's agreed to 100% match, on that, which is a plus. And then I asked, so debris removal, that's critically important. I don't want the debris to be in our city very long at all. I've said to my staff, we will work as feverishly as we can to remove this debris. The other element that I asked him to consider, something that hasn't been done across the country, and that is we have a lot of first responders who are out there and their homes have been badly damaged or destroyed by flooding waters. Chief Satterwhite, I don't think he minds me saying this, Chief Satterwhite happens to be one. I didn't mean to call your name out, Chief. But the point is, for our first responders, I've asked for an expedited registration FEMA program for them. We cannot ask first responders to be out on the street working 12, 16 hours a day, for example, if not longer, and they have undergone significant damage to their homes. And so we need to expedite the process for them so that they don't have to wait and be at the end of the line in order to process their claims. And we need to do that. And he gave a big thumbs up on that. So it was a very positive conversation. He indicated, this desire to work with the city, Harris County. He toured, with County Judge at Emmett in NRG. But it was a positive conversation. I think we're off to a good start, because it's going to take all of us working together. And this is one time, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what your label is. I think what people are only looking for at this point, they're just looking for results. Okay? Thank you all so very much.
Mayor Turner there in the latest news conference on the efforts to have some hurricane and tropical storm relief in the Houston area. Well, it's been 1 week since our city was hit by Harvey, and today we're seeing many areas where the water is still rising. We have crews all over the Houston area with team coverage tonight. Here's what we know right now. President Trump and First Lady on the ground in Houston for a few hours today, visiting the shelter at NRG Center. Several rental car companies are rushing extra vehicles to Southeast Texas to support people who lost their vehicles in the storm. And there are reports that 7 Superfund sites in and around Houston flooded during the storm. The EPA is responsible for those sites. They have not yet sent teams to inspect them. Melissa Correa joins us from West Houston in another neighborhood feeling the flooding threat. She's at I-10 in Eldridge. Hey, Melissa.
Hey there, Ron. We're joining you from the intersection of Eldridge Parkway and I-10, where you can see there is still standing water behind me. And this is part of the issue Mayor Turner is talking about when it comes to that now mandatory evacuation in West Houston. More than a half a dozen boats are now in the water carrying firefighters from all across the United States. Those firefighters told me they are having to physically dock their boats, wade the water, and approach homes and apartment complexes. complexes because there are still hundreds of people who refuse to leave their homes. And guys, I get it. I live in an apartment here in Houston. I just paid my rent yesterday. And according to these firefighters who were now trying to do these last minute rescues, a lot of the folks on second floors and above don't want to leave because they still have power, they still have cable, they still have internet, all of the resources to wait it out. But Mayor Turner is telling us this standing water isn't going to go anywhere for about 2 weeks. And so in an effort to save lives and keep all of these first responders safe, any property with standing water with power on, like that Valero gas station there just across the way, at 7 a.m. tomorrow, the power is going to be cut. And as we turn our way this way, Ralph, I'm walking behind you. We're talking about all those boats and rescue crews in the area. We're talking as far as Oklahoma and Kansas at this point. At least half a dozen of them have shown up here around 5 this afternoon. As you can see, no one's out here. All of the boats are docked. Now, one of the firefighter crews does have a canine with him, and that was used in some of the rescues earlier this week out here in West Houston. That canine is trained to sniff out human beings in these rescue efforts. And so this is what we're talking about. Again, the area that needs to evacuate now, it's a mandatory evacuation. South of I-10, west of Gessner, north of Briar Forest, and east of the reservoirs. Again, this is only for folks who already have water standing in their home. Amongst the safety concerns for law enforcement and for yourself, there are major health concerns with this water standing here. We're going on about a week now of this water standing here in areas like West Houston. And so with that come a lot of dangers. And then there's the safety hazards as well, possible fires. We're talking about gas leaks as just the water continues to seep into the ground and damage everything around it. So again, heed the warning. It is now a mandatory evacuation. They started with voluntary evacuations yesterday. Unfortunately, when we were out here then, a lot of folks had already gotten out and were coming back to their homes to get just a few more things. But at this point, you don't have that time. You need to get out right now. There are boats in the water. They'll take you to a shelter or wherever you need to go, because this is going to be the situation for about 2 more weeks. Again, we have more information on this mandatory evacuation online now. Visit KHOU.com along with info for the Red Cross, FEMA, and any shelters in the area. We want to get you safe, Houston, and we want to make sure that the people who are out here volunteering and rescuing are just as safe. We're standing for Houston. I'm Melissa Correa, KHOU 11 News.
All right, thank you so much, Melissa. The nightmare, as we see, continues for people near the Addicts Reservoir. Parts of that area, as you see, remain underwater. Alicia Nieves is in West Houston with how that area is dealing with the ongoing crisis.
Yes, we are on the intersection of Memorial Drive and Crossroads Drive. Right behind me is Fleetwood South. So this is the West Memorial area of Houston, and this is what we've been seeing all day. You see that boat in the center of your screen? We are seeing strangers come and help out these residents because there's still 4 feet of water here that has been taking over these homes on both sides of Memorial Drive. Residents tell us the water on top of Memorial Drive just evaporated maybe about a day or so ago. So what we're seeing is these residents are hopping on any boat they can, going back to their homes to see what they can bring back and take with them to wherever they're staying, maybe a friend's house, maybe a shelter. And it was interesting. We spoke with one man who lives just down the road here in these same neighborhoods. He says when these dams were built, the Addicts and the Barker Dam, this neighborhood wasn't here, but when they came in and then they let out this water, this is the first time that I'm told in 50 years that these waters have gotten so bad because of the runoff that was released from those dams. So these residents are trying to figure out what to do next. So good thing we have some good Samaritans here. I heard a couple of ladies over here who have set up kind of a staging area to help out with supplies. They're from Indiana. We are seeing people from all over the U.S. come and help out here in Houston. So this is what they've been doing all day. We have cars lined up all along Memorial Drive trying to see how they can help. We're told these waters here could linger for the next 2 weeks, maybe even longer. Standing for Houston, I'm Alicia Nieves for KHOU.
Thank you so much, Alicia. President Trump making his second stop in Texas in less than a week. The president and First Lady Melania Trump spent time with victims of the storm. The president greeted and hugged several children that ran up to him at the shelter. He later joined a long line of Red Cross volunteers handing out food.
And the water's disappearing, and we have a long way to go, but the water's disappearing, and you look at the neighborhoods and you see we just rode through this, and 2 days ago, even yesterday, they had water, and today it's all swept up and cleaned up, and you've got a lot of hard-working people, I'll tell you that. You have a great, great governor, and he's done a fantastic job. So on behalf of Melania and myself, I want to thank you, Governor, for everything you've done. And First Lady, thank you very much. So nice, so good.
Big question was, when he had his conversation with the mayor on the tarmac, what did they talk about?
We talk about operating with the greatest degree of urgency, getting this trash, heavy debris removed as quickly as possible. He understood that. We talk about housing, the rapid repair program that needs to be expanded so that people can start repairing their homes, where they can live in their homes while they do the grander repairs. And he was very positive. So I want to thank him for that.
Brandy Smith was there as Air Force One arrived this afternoon.
This is the first time we've seen Air Force One on the tarmac here at Ellington Field since President Trump was elected in November. But this is his second visit to Texas in just a week. The first stop for the president and first lady was to visit with victims of Hurricane Harvey.
As tough as this was, it's been a wonderful thing. I think even for the country to watch and for the world to watch.
That's the president at NRG Center, which is the largest emergency shelter in the city. He met with the storm's victims, including this mother and her son displaced by Harvey's floods. Then he and First Lady Melania served food to other evacuees. President Trump faced criticism after his first visit to Texas on Tuesday when he popped into Corpus Christi in Austin, then tweeted about witnessing firsthand the horror and devastation caused by Hurricane Harvey. The White House says the president avoided the hardest hit areas so he wouldn't distract from rescue and recovery efforts, and that's why he's back, to meet with those affected and speak again with Governor Greg Abbott.
You have a great, great governor, and he's done a fantastic job.
A topic of conversation, no doubt, the amount of aid needed to get Houston and Texas as a whole back on its feet. The president submitted a $7.9 billion aid request to Congress, the bulk of which would go to FEMA. Once they met with members of the Texas congressional delegation here at Ellington Field, the president and first lady hopped back on Air Force One and continued on to Lake Charles, Louisiana. At Ellington Field, Brandy Smith, back to you guys.
To Crosby now. Long lines and frustration there as representatives from the Arkema plant try to get money and assistance to evacuees. Arkema representatives started meeting with evacuees this morning at Crosby High School. We found several people getting in line for money and hotel vouchers. Many had been in line for hours. Some are being told to come back tomorrow. Arkema reps would not speak to our cameras, but evacuees tell us hotels and lodging in Crosby are filling up.
They said they don't have the room and lodging here or in Baytown. Baytown is full as well. So if we take the hotels, we'll have to go all the way to Pasadena or Houston, downtown Houston. We can't do that. None of us can afford that.
Talk to the police right at the blockade there.
Evacuees are not allowed to go back to their homes. 2 more fires started at the Arkema plant yesterday. More fires expected today. Fears of Harvey last long after the storm. Next, what to expect after the storm psychologically.
Big ideas, big exclusives with Len and Mia. KHOU 11 News at 10.
Jason, Len, Mia, and myself.
We're not trying to be like anyone else. We do things big.
Big stories, big ideas. It's about doing things differently. I'd say we're not only bold, but daring.
We're not afraid to ask the tough questions.
Not being afraid to take chances. Presenting stories in a way that grabs your attention.
We are invested in this for you.
Now, that's our mission.
That's original.
See the difference for yourself. KHOU 11 News at 10.
Star Furniture is now open, ready to help Texas families get back to the comfort they deserve. Save an extra 20% off furniture and mattresses. Plus, get up to 5 years free financing and your entire delivery is free when you purchase any mattress $9.99 or more. Star Furniture.
Hurry, it's the final days of the Ford Summer Sales Event.
Looks a little tight. Here, I'll park it.
Dad, relax.
Whoa. You kids have it way too easy these days.
Take on summer right with Ford, America's best-selling brand. Time is running out for summer's hottest offer. Get 0% for 72 months plus an additional $1,000 on top of your trade-in. That's 0 for 72 plus $1,000 trade assist cash on Fusion, Escape, Edge, and Explorer. Hurry, ends September 5th only at your Best in Texas Ford dealers.
McDonald's have always been a fabric in the community.
We're all a family.
Every time a disaster like this happens, we start thinking, what is the first thing we can do?
Giving them a place of comfort.
Come here will make you feel at home.
To give their life some semblance of normalcy.
People did come together.
And Houston is my home.
It's my children's home.
And we will rebuild Houston.
This is us.
We need each other.
We stick for each other no matter what. We're McDonald's. We're
Houston strong.
And we're going to keep it going.
During Star's Labor Day sale, get a free box spring with every Serta iComfort mattress. Or save up to $800 on a Serta adjustable foundation. Plus, free delivery, plus up to 5 years free financing, too. Star Furniture. Sleep made simple.
Welcome back, everyone. The water is receding and the shock of Hurricane Harvey is starting to fade, but we know that the journey is far from over. And KHOU 11 is dedicated to helping after Harvey. Bill Prasad counsels people in times of crisis, so we asked him how to deal with some of the psychological impacts of this storm.
I'm Jason Whiteley in Vidor. The police chief here tells us that at least half the homes, perhaps even more, experienced some type of flooding from the torrential rains that this place received over the last few days. The city itself, though, remains mostly cut off from everywhere else. It took us several hours to get from Beaumont over here to Vidor. I-10 is closed in Beaumont. High water fills many back roads as well, though. But people with private boats and the National Guard here have been out pulling more than 1,300 people out of their homes where high water has risen all around it. The police chief in Vidor tells us fortunately there have been no fatalities at all. That's the good news. There is also some encouraging news as well a little farther to the west in Beaumont. Water gradually coming back on there. It had been out citywide after the pumps failed. 53 inches of rain in that city. There is still a boil water notice on. Some customers are getting it back on. We do understand it is low pressure as well. So clearly a long road to recovery for folks over here in the East Texas area, a little closer to the Louisiana border. Ron, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Jason. Let's go live to reporter Ryan Takeo with more from the news conference we just heard from the mayor about. Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead and recap the announcement you just made within the last half hour or so.
Well, you know, yesterday I asked people in West Houston, in that limited area, west of Gessner, east of Highway 6, north of Briar Forest, if they have water in their home, if there's water already in your home, to voluntarily leave your home. It was becoming more and more dangerous for them, and especially it was becoming more dangerous for our first responders and trying to get to people in that area. And as you know, this morning there was a fire in Memorial. When the firefighters did their canvassing of the area on yesterday, we discovered that 116 since yesterday voluntarily chose to leave. But about 300 have chosen to shelter in place. And that's becoming it's becoming more dangerous, especially for our first responders, and even more dangerous to them. Therefore, I feel compelled at this point to issue a mandatory evacuation just for people in that area whose homes are inundated with water, or apartments are inundated with water. If there is no water in your home, no water in your apartment in that area, this does not apply to you. But if you're living in a home in that West Houston area, west of Gessner, east of Highway 6, and there's water in your home, it's about 300 people that we're talking about. It's a mandatory evacuation, and then if they don't leave, the power will be turned off tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m.
Was this an easy decision?
No, it's not an easy decision. No one wants to force anybody out of their home. No one wants the heavy hand of government to come down. But it's balancing competing interests. This morning, for example, in that home that caught fire in the Memorial area, you had firefighters walking through muddy water, a lot of unseen dangers trying to get to that home. Fortunately, from all indications, no one was there. But can you imagine when we know that someone is living in a home, and let's say a fire should erupt, it's the firefighters, first responders' duty to try to get there and to rescue them. But if we know that the situation is not going to change, the water is going to remain in people's homes, or at least over the next 10 days, it's in the interest, the public safety interest of the homeowners, the property owners who are there, and it's also in the best interest of these first responders for people to leave. And if they won't leave voluntarily, then I'm just compelled to issue a mandatory evacuation for those particular homes, properties where water is already in their home. Again, if you're over there, no water in your home, this does not apply to you.
Yesterday you made the voluntary plea.
Yeah, made a voluntary ask.
Are you surprised there are 300 people left in this area?
Well, look, we're talking about homes that have never flooded. But because of the release of water from the reservoir, people want to protect their property.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, I understand people want to protect the property, but this is one time when you have to put personal safety over the property. And this is also a time when people have to bear in mind the interests of the firefighters. They too have families, and they want to go home safely to their families as well.
Mayor Turner, appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Again, Mayor Turner ordering a mandatory evacuation for parts of West Houston. Standing for Houston, I'm Ryan Takeo. Now back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Ryan. The city taking tough measures to try to save some lives. Let's talk about the rivers that are a problem right now. Let's check in with Blake.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ron. Yes, and it's no surprise that the mandatory evacuations were issued out in portions of West Houston. Take a look at this. I put this map together here showing all the river flooding here going on across western Harris County. Everything you see in red is going to be considered a major flood or at major flood stage. So again, you can see that's going to be out along the Katy Freeway, getting down into Fort Bend County as well, including Rocheron, where we've had big problems this afternoon. Also getting down towards the Wharton County line as well. So you'll notice that most of the red triangles continue out across the western portions of Harris County. The other bayous across Harris County, especially on off towards the east and to the north, are beginning to recede. They are back down to minor flood and or right at flood stage. So we are seeing conditions improve across the area. As far as rivers that have crests and are falling at the time, Buffalo Bayou at the West Belt, Buffalo Bayou at Piney Point Village, Brazos River at Richmond, Brazos River at Rocheron, San Bernard at Bowling, and Trinity River at Moss Bluff. Now take a look at this behind me. You'll see that we're looking at these basically these numbers here. Now these are the rivers that are cresting or getting ready to crest, and you can see where they are now versus where they are going to crest. We're at 46.16 feet right now at the Colorado River and expected to crest at 46.2. So we are almost there. The other river that we're going to have to watch closely is the Brazos River at West Columbia, and you can see that right now at 30.77, expected to crest at 32 feet. So we've got about another foot and a few inches to go before we see the height of that river. Now keep in mind, a crest means that the river is at its peak. It will not rise any further than the crest. And then we'll see those water levels begin to recede just a little bit across the area. So once those rivers crest, and you don't have water in your home, things are only going to get better, and it looks like you will stay dry once that river crests. So moving ahead here, you'll see that a mandatory evacuation here basically means you should leave immediately upon hearing the order. An imminent threat to life and property exists. And as far as a voluntary evacuation goes, you're not really required to leave, but it is certainly in your best interest to do so. So when you are under that mandatory evacuation, certainly leave without delay. So let's go ahead and get to your forecast here. We're looking at basically nice weather across the U.S. and right down here into the state of Texas as well. Your forecast this evening going to be a nice one, it looks like. We're looking at basically 86 degrees this evening, waking up Sunday morning to some patchy fog, 73 degrees. We're at 92 heading into Sunday afternoon. And taking a look at the 7-day outlook here, temperatures remaining in the 90s all the way through Tuesday. Then a nice cold front comes through with temperatures down into the 50s possibly for Thursday morning. We'll have more news coming up right after the break.
have to have a lot of passion to grow grass in December in Denver. You have to know how many times a cleat can touch a single blade before it breaks. Even if it doesn't make the headlines, when it's football, you give it everything.
Hey, Chris, you know what I mean?
Hey, appreciate everything you do for football, man.
The game wouldn't be as good without you.
How do you want to live? As a decent person? Good husband? Is that it? Good? Of course not. King of the hill? Better. Top of your game? Win. All powerful. Like a boss. Like a pro. We couldn't agree more. We are professional grade. Step up to GMC with 20% below MSRP on specially equipped 2017 Sierra SLT models. That's over $11,000 on this Sierra.
Through Kroger Community Rewards, local nonprofits earn millions of dollars each year. Sign up at Kroger Community Rewards, and every time you use your Plus card, you can donate to the local group that matters most to you, just by shopping at Kroger. Rescue and disaster relief agencies are among the many nonprofits you can support when you sign up for Kroger Community Rewards. Please join us in lending a helping hand to all those affected. Simply sign up online and link your Plus card today.
My landlord won't fix my hot water.
That's why I'm here.
Some problems are just too big to solve on your own.
Call or email me, and I'll do what I can to help.
Tell Tiffany. Call or email Tell Tiffany at KHOU.com.
All right, before we wrap up for this hour, we want to tell you that Gerald Treese is going to be here on Facebook Live to answer all your legal questions as it pertains to the storm. We also want to tell you that the mayor took some tough measures today, saying the power will be turned off in certain neighborhoods in West Houston starting tomorrow at 7 a.m. to save lives. We'll have more. We're here for you on KHOU.com. We'll see you tonight at 10.
And I'll see you on Facebook.
Right.
We try and do things differently.
We're not afraid to ask the tough questions.
Being able to deliver that information.
I'd say we're not only bold, but daring.
See the difference for yourself. KHOU 11 News at 10.
Star Furniture Outlet and Clearance offers savings of up to 70% off MSRP. And now during our Labor Day sale, save an additional 20% off our lowest prices on all floor samples. Plus, everything is priced to go. Come in early for the best selection on unique, one-of-a-kind bestsellers from Star showrooms arriving daily. Save on the name brands you want, many items at or below cost. Plus, this weekend, save an additional 20% off floor samples on top of incredible Labor Day savings. Shop the outlet and save.
I've canceled my service, but I keep getting billed.
That's why I'm here.
Some problems are just too big to solve on your own.
Call or email me, and I'll do what I can to help.
Tell Tiffany. Call or email Tell Tiffany at KHOU.com. Don't be surprised by severe weather. Follow KHOU 11 Weather on Twitter. Need help? Tell Tiffany. Call or email Tell Tiffany at